Hey everyone, Drew here for Drew Underground and Bench Clearing Brouhaha here on YouTube. Episode 8, week 15 and week 16 to discuss here tonight. Obviously, as you guys can tell by the sound of my voice, I'm tired as fuck because I did lay down for a little bit, but after this, I'm going back to bed. But on that note, joining me is my younger brother. Hey, Rob.
Hey there. How you doing?
Well, I already just said so.
Yeah, you're tired as hell. Yeah.
But week 15 is finally in the books.
Yep.
And in fantasy, how did you do in true football?
Well, week 15 in our league was relatively meaningless for almost everyone because nobody changed really positions much.
Yeah.
And they weren't really going to because you were basically locked in at second seed. And I was definitely locked in at first seed. Even if I lost, I was still going to be first seed.
Well, so long as I beat my opponent and Erica beat hers, I was going to remain number 2.
Yeah, and there was a switch, but the playoffs are basically set now in our league. So I mean, for most people, that was week 1 of their playoffs, but in our league, that was actually the last week of the regular season. Some people don't style it that way, but whatever, worked out okay, I guess.
Yeah, so week 16 in true football, you and I have the week off, so we don't have to give a shit about anything.
Yeah, no, I for worse in 2 separate my other 2 leagues. It's actually a bye week in all 3 leagues for me this week. Week 16 is a bye week for me in all 3. So I have no games in week 16.
And in the case of no bench, I forced a bye week on you, so you're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, you knocked me out of the winners bracket into the 4th place bracket. So I now have to fight for 4th place.
Like I said going into it, if I can't beat your ass, I don't want anyone to.
Yeah.
And
my team didn't do as well this year.
However, most of the time when I wind up facing you, it winds up being I didn't beat you, and nobody winds up beating you.
Yeah, my other league, I was also defeated out of the winners bracket by 3 points on Monday night. Aaron Jones decided to do quite well, and it ended my season pretty much.
Yeah, I didn't trust him based on the matchup, and so I had him benched in true football this past week. So, but as it is, hey Joshy, go Packers! Yeah, fuck you too. Anyway,
well, they did just beat the Rams, so that was okay.
Yeah. I do hate the Rams more than the Packers, so it is what it is.
I feel bad for the Rams. They've fallen off a cliff, basically, this year.
And secondly, Josh, you're in fucking Arizona. You should be a Cardinals fan, if anything, dude.
Hey, man, he can be whatever the hell he wants to be. That's the way it is nowadays.
Well, in the underground, if Joshy wants to prance around in a dress and say that he's a female, go for it. But I'm gonna call you a brain dead lunatic. Anyway.
What I was gonna say though is that if you were here and you were watching the way the Cardinals were playing, you wouldn't be a Cardinals fan either.
I would be flying the colors because they would be my home team at that point, much like you usually find me wearing purple, being that I live in Minnesota. So Cardinals suck. I'm originally from California, so what? You're a Rams fan, Joshy? Anyway,
he's got a lot to pick from, but yeah, whatever.
Well, Chargers, Rams, The 49ers are probably the best of the bunch. Anyway.
Yeah, these days, yeah.
Rams suck since they changed from San Diego.
Yeah.
That's the Chargers. Not the Rams.
Yeah, the Rams came from St. Louis.
Well, originally they were in Los Angeles, then they went to St. Louis, then they went back,
yeah.
But still.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you want to get actual about the history. Packers.
But anyway, first game, Thursday game there.
Packers fan, laugh emoji, yeah. Anyway, yeah, let me bring up this scores here. On my trusty looking laptop here, so. Thanks, NFL Network. I love your pop-ups too, fuckers. Okay, so the Thursday game, the 49ers beat the Seahawks 21-13, and Geno Smith was average once again.
Yeah, it was a close game. Again, this is another one where it was closer than it appears. The Niners were kept down by the Seahawks defense quite well most of the game, but came back and pulled it off. And sort of surprising, you didn't expect the Seahawks to only put up 13. Almost the entire year they had been putting up more than that. So this was definitely a surprise.
Yeah, and my only note on the game was there was a bogus roughing the passer call on Bosa.
Yeah, well.
Which
that'll happen.
Which reminds me, I wish that I had wrote this down, but I do remember a tackle, or at least a few, on Aaron Rodgers that the referees did not throw flags for in the Packers game.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where I said at work, discussing this with a coworker earlier this morning, going, I respect consistency, even if the consistency is horribly fucking wrong every fucking time. So if the NFL officials were consistently roughing the passer flags when it's not each and every time, I would go, I respect the fact that they're wrong every time. But obviously they're not doing that, which means they're even fucking worse at that point.
Yeah, wow.
Because I don't recall a single roughing the passer call on Aaron Rodgers at all last night.
Well, no, we already know that some quarterbacks seem to get, better defense in terms of the ref calls than others do. Don't know why that is, other than maybe ref favoritism or something.
Yeah.
Or refs just picking and randomly choosing when they want to call a roughing call. It's really not a science anymore, and it's not a very beautiful art either, considering it's just basically the opinion of the ref nowadays.
A Broncos hat, blah. Broncos are better than Cardinals, but only by a little bit. Joshy, keep it in your pants, dude.
So, who's the next one we are to discuss here?
Yeah. So, yeah, Geno was average at best to suck, and the Niners won, and Bosa got punished for doing his job. Which reminds me, when even I agree with something that Tom Brady said, something's fucked up, because I normally disagree with everything that comes out of Tom Brady's mouth, but as it is. Yeah, the comeback of the fucking century, or in this...
this strange game, I did not know it was going to happen.
In this case, the comeback of the entire existence of the NFL. The Vikings beat the Colts 39-36 in overtime, just barely, because there was only seconds left in overtime before a tie would happen.
Mm-hmm.
When the Vikes kicker kicked the game-winning field goal.
I I have never in my entire life, over 20 years of watching NFL.
Yeah.
I've never in my entire life ever seen a fucking game be so lopsided ever in my life, where one team exists in the first half and the other team exists in the second half, and neither exist together at the same time. The Colts were brilliant, amazing, and relatively great in the first half. They put up 33 unanswered points in the first half.
I remember waking
up, completely disappeared in the second half.
Yeah, I remember waking up to your text and going, yeah, that's right. The Sunday and the late afternoon games are basically in the third quarters of them. I should turn on the TV and see what's going on. And that's when I saw the Seahawks game was on. But but if you remember my reply to you telling me what the score was at halftime in the Vikings-Colts game, I remember saying to you while I was half asleep at the time, what?
Yeah, I don't even know how to explain what the hell I witnessed in this one. All
I know is I found out what happened in the game from Brandon Perna, who was talking about it on YouTube. Evidently, there was a lot of fucking shitty officiating in favor of the Colts in this game.
Well, fair enough, but the part that makes no sense to me is that you had the Colts that put up 33 in the first half, unanswered points, which in any normal game, 33 unanswered points, you win the game. Like, it's over. It's done.
But
also then in the second half, the Colts put up nothing. Three points total in the whole second half.
Yeah,
but the Vikings put up 39. Like, what the fuck just happened here? Like, the Colts disappeared and the Vikings showed up big time, and the game looked so much closer and so much more normal than it deserves to look on paper. Like, this game should look like there should be an asterisk on this game as the weirdest damn game I've ever seen in my life, or anyone's ever seen.
Yeah.
Because of the way this flowed. I've also never seen the Vikings make a 36-point comeback.
However, when you say the Colts played amazing in the first half, first of all, we're talking about the Colts in 2022. So when I looked into the questions that I had of how the fuck did they get 33 points? It's the Colts in 2022. And that's when I found out, the Vikings were turning it over in special teams. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, again,
the offense did fucking nothing for the Colts.
Yeah, it was sparse. I understand that. But here's the thing, all right?
Yeah.
No one in their right mind is going to sit there and look at a 33-0 score and say, oh, well, the team that's got 33 and the other team that's got nothing, that team with 33 isn't doing that well. You would be insane to say that. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, granted, if you break it down into analytics and say, oh, well, it's just circumstances, coincidence, or whatever, fine. But still, the end result being what it is, never mind that, but the end result at halftime was that the Colts were definitely doing better than the Vikings at halftime. It was not close, and it was not – I figured this was a long gone game at half. I figured, well, the Vikings have lost to the Colts. This is the upset of the year. Oh, my God. That's what I was thinking.
And then it was comeback of the entire existence of the league.
Certainly the best comeback in the history of the Vikings organization.
Because keep in mind before this, the comebacks that people talk about were Frank Reich as the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I know some of them. Yeah.
Or the Patriots coming back in the Super Bowl against Matt Ryan and the Falcons. 28-3 was those were the top two.
I won't say that
at
the
the
Vikings
time.
Colts game this week was the best game of the week because it wasn't. It was just the weirdest game of the week.
Which wound up making history.
Yeah, I just don't even know. I don't know what else to say about it other than what the fuck.
We'll see what the Vikings are up to in week 16 coming up here. But on that note, the Ravens lose to the Browns 13-3. The Ravens' offense seemingly disappeared completely.
Yeah. Without Lamar, they just have nothing. It doesn't seem like they have anything without Lamar.
Yeah. Kind of like Peyton Manning for the Colts at the time, leading up to them getting the first overall pick, which led to Andrew Luck, which led to him retiring, which led the Colts to where they are now.
Yeah.
Funny how everything links. Anyway. After that, we got the Bills beating the Dolphins, which we figured was going to be the case, but 32-29. So the snow did play a factor in the game, it seems.
Yeah, close game though. In all fairness, very valiant effort by the Dolphins. They actually showed up, but what also showed up was the Bills from last year. They showed up too, and the Bills from last year, no one can defeat those Bills. I mean, really, no one can defeat those Bills. So the Dolphins were in for a rough go, and it was a rough go. And they barely, I mean, it's a barely win situation here. This could have gone either way with either team.
Mm-hmm.
This happened to be the Bills' home field advantage, apparently, made the difference.
Which is what I was expecting, because like I was said going into it, if they are playing anywhere else but Buffalo for this, I probably would go with the Dolphins. But as long as the NFL lets the Bills play in their home stadium while it's snowing, the Bills are going to beat pretty much everybody at that point. And speaking of winning in your home stadium, the Saints beat the Falcons 21-18.
Yep, that's definitely another game where, for whatever reason, on the Falcons, the backup running back, Algier, was better than Cordell Patterson.
And the weird thought for me about this game is both the Falcons and the Saints both still have a chance to win their division.
Yeah, that's the other funny part. But
the
Saints and the Falcons have had
5-9, and you still could be division champion.
They've had really high ups and downs, and really high ups and really low downs for both of these teams this year.
Yeah.
I have to say though, the Saints can win a playoff game if they played the way they played in this game that they played against the Falcons here. If they play like that, then they can win a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
But if they play like they played the last 5 weeks prior to that, then no, they have no chance of doing anything. There's still some spark, some core of talent going on there in the Saints. I guess it's nice to see, but they still need to fix some things too.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of fixing things, two teams that need to fix a few things, the Steelers and the Panthers. Steelers beat the Panthers 24-16. And both still have an outside chance of winning their division.
Yeah, this was just a game of where the Steelers offense was there. The Steelers offense, which had been both absent and apparent in various games this year, actually showed up for this one. And the Panthers defense was banged up again, so they didn't do much stopping of the Steelers. That's what happened there.
Yeah. And after that, in a surprising close game, the Eagles barely beat the Bears 25-20.
Yeah, I expected that one to be way wider, given what the Eagles have done to other teams.
And given the fact that the Bears suck.
I mean, this still means that the Eagles are probably the best team in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
I would say definitely.
Well, 13-1 says they are.
Yeah. And it would have been a major upset if they had lost to the Bears. Much like that game against Washington would have been like that. The Bears had no business winning this game against the Eagles, so the fact that it was close, it is surprising.
Yeah, and the only reason the Bears suck is because the front office is not good at putting weapons around their franchise quarterback in Justin Fields. He's literally the entire team this year.
Well, they've got a couple of running backs, but running backs don't really help the quarterback all that much.
Most of the time, no. Not unless they're like a Marshall Faulk who can literally do everything.
Yeah,
or a Taysom Hill.
There's
who can literally do everything.
There's a certain style of blocking halfback that could be very valuable to a quarterback,
but
that's not what they have. They have low rushing, middle rusher guys. So.
Yeah. But anyway, another game that shouldn't have been as close as it was. The Chiefs beat the Texans 30-24.
Yeah, I was surprised at how much offense the Texans were able to put up against the Chiefs. It kind of illustrates that maybe the Chiefs' defense is a little bit weaker than it should be. Because the Texans have been held down pretty badly by worse teams.
Yep.
They weren't held down much in this game. They damn near pulled it off. And it would have been a major upset if the Texans beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mahomes and the Chiefs once again victorious.
Yeah, to go
Mahomes
11-3.
Mahomes just can't seem to sit down. He's just Mr. Perfect continuing.
The Texans maintain their bid for the first overall draft pick coming up.
Yep.
In April. However, this Cowboys-Jags game, I don't think we can call that an upset either way, regardless of who would have won. Right?
Well, this has to do with how much the Jags have been surging lately.
Yeah.
The Cowboys have been trashing teams one after another. So this was surprising on the defensive side of the ball.
And then occasionally losing games to teams that were like, okay, well, that makes sense for you guys to lose to.
This one had every right to be a shootout, so that part's not surprising. But the fact that the Jaguars actually defeated the Cowboys does take the Cowboys down a notch. Frankly, I mean, it just does.
Potentially, yeah, but I wouldn't call this like an upset, because given how the Jaguars, like you said, have been playing lately, I'm not surprised by the Jaguars beating the Cowboys at this point.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence and the guys have really got it together right now.
Yeah.
And they've really shown that they can be cohesive and make a lot of noise. And beating the Cowboys is making a lot of noise.
Yeah, and the NFC equivalent of the Jaguars, the Lions, beat the Jets 20-17 as well.
Oh yeah, see that game was pretty close, and it looks close, and it really was. The Jags' defense is not what it used to be early in the season, and the Lions would have had more had it not been for some heroics of the Jets' defense. So I could have seen the Lions getting 35 in this game if it weren't for the Jets' defense being pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Jets' offense has been a bit anemic in the last couple of weeks. Their defense is really what had been carrying them through the season, making them look pretty decent. But yeah, without defense doing their job completely and offense being kind of mediocre right now, they just couldn't pull it off against the Lions, who've been on a tear offensively.
Mm-hmm.
The Lions' offense has been unbelievable. I still don't believe some of the results they put up.
Yeah.
Because
I
Lions started
agree.
out really terrible this year, and they really roared into the back half of the season, just kicking teams' asses one after another.
Pun intended.
Yeah, pun intended, I guess.
Speaking of, well, the opposite of puns, what urinating tree on YouTube would call a tank bowl matchup, the Cardinals and Broncos, and the Broncos beating the
Yeah.
Cardinals 24-15.
Yeah, Cardinals with no Murray, and a banged up defense on top of it.
And Russell Wilson getting his head slammed into the ground.
Yeah. The Cardinals Broncos game was bound to be one of those games where you're just like, who sucks less?
And as Joshy said in the chat, it is the Broncos at this point, which is surprising to say.
The Broncos who have been sucky all year.
Yeah.
And the Cardinals who just they started out sucky, then they did well in the middle, and now they're back to sucking again.
Yeah.
Their season's already over. I think both of them are. So this game was, again, bound to be who sucks last, basically.
This next game was fun to hear about, on almost on the level of the Vikings Colts game, considering how it ended.
Yeah.
By incompetency by the Patriots offense.
Yep.
Instead of going to overtime, they decided to do some razzle-dazzle bullshit, which cost them the game.
Mm-hmm.
Raiders beat the Patriots 30-24.
Yeah, this is a really close game, and a victory of and I don't know. I'm kind of happy for the Raiders in this case because back in the day, before I was born, before even you were born, this is the type of thing that the Raiders used to do to the Patriots back in the day.
Yeah, back in the 70s, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see it happening again, where the Raiders actually did get one up over the Patriots. Because it didn't happen in the late 90s or the 2000s or the 20 teens. It just that whole era, the Patriots kicking the Raiders' asses over and over.
But back then, that was a Tom Brady-less Patriots, and now it's a Tom Brady-less Patriots team.
Exactly.
It would have meant more if it was a Brady Patriots team, but still.
Yeah, but yeah, I liked that game. It wasn't what I would call the game of the week because I have a different candidate for that, but it was a good game. I enjoyed watching that one.
Have we gotten to that game yet?
No.
Okay. So after that, we got the Chargers beating the Titans 17-14. Not a tankable matchup, but the scores suggest that it was.
Yeah, the Titans did exactly what they always do. Somewhere between 10 and 25 points.
Yeah.
In this case, 14. Wasn't quite enough. Now, the Chargers last week looked amazing. This week looked pretty terrible. This is a win by default. This is just what happens when your team doesn't suck enough to lose to the other team. Derrick Henry on the Titans did his best, but he alone cannot defeat the entire Chargers. This is what happens. The Chargers nudge the Titans, and it was expected to be a Chargers win, but it could have been either way. And especially with how it played out, I wouldn't have been shocked either way. But I do think the Chargers have problems, and because they should have been able to defeat the Titans by more than 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of teams have.
Quite.
So the Chargers seem to be a bit mediocre right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just really on both sides of the ball.
And on that note, this next game I did watch because it was the first one that I saw on TV of the late afternoon games. Bengals beating the Buccaneers 34-23. And my notes on this game are refs missed a face mask by Buccaneers defender on Jamar Chase. And Brady stunk up the field once again.
Yeah, this is the game that I think was the game of the week for me. I mean, and that's, again, second to the Vikings-Colts game, which was game of the week because it was weird and strange. But this game was possibly, this game right here was a Joe Burrow beating Tom Brady situation.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burrow just cannot seem to ever lose to Tom Brady.
Or to pretty much any supposed top-tier quarterback.
Yeah, Joe just has all of their numbers. And frankly, maybe they've got their setup there in Cincinnati. I mean, it's really good. Their team is just really good.
Well, they got 3 receivers that can get the job done. They have Joe Mixon. Their O-line seems to be all right, and then their defense is doing their job.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't 34-0, but this was pretty much a beatdown.
So as far as I'm concerned, the top 2 teams to play in the AFC Championship are the Bengals and Chiefs again. At this point.
Yeah, it probably will be that. But yeah, that Bengals Buccaneers game was the game of the week to me, just because it was illustrative of a lot of things and a very memorable game, but also illustrative of Tom Brady's trajectory in the league. It's like, the future is now, old man, basically, if that were a game.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the kind of game where if I were Tom Brady and I went back to the locker room and I just lost to the Bengals by 11 points, I actually would be asking myself whether I should do this anymore. Whether I should continue playing football anymore. If it were me, I probably would really be considering retiring at that point. Because if you can't beat the Bengals, then you definitely can't do much in the playoffs. You definitely can't. So
if I would,
they're not going to make the playoffs now. So
yeah. On that note, to piggyback off of what you were saying about if you were playing for, I think you said the Bucs, that you would quit, right?
No, I said if I were Tom Brady and I went back to the locker room after losing to the Bengals by 11 points.
Yeah. Well,
with that team, I would probably be considering retiring at that point, because if you can't beat them, then your playoff chances and your dreams of further glory, where is that at? There isn't any.
Well, with our next matchup to talk about here, the Giants-Commanders, if I were playing for the Commanders after watching this game, I would not only quit playing in the NFL, I'd sue the NFL for fucking corruption. Because my one and only note on the Giants Commanders game, and yes, I'm saying Commanders because I feel sorry for them after this, because my note on this game is the refs cost Washington the game with an illegal formation call, taking away a game-tying touchdown, and ignoring pass interference on 4th down on the Giants.
Yep.
The refs cost the Commanders, which would have sent it to overtime, which would then mean back to square one. Let's see what team sucks least. here between the Giants and the Commanders.
The one thing I'd like to say about this game, this Commanders-Giants game, is that I did expect the Giants to win.
But
that would have only
not but not with the fix being obviously in against the Commanders.
The part that's strange to me,
yeah,
is that in previous weeks, including against the likes of the Cowboys, the Commanders' offense had been amazing, repeatedly. But for some reason, in this game, the Commanders' offense didn't show up. Like, they were not there.
Well, they showed up enough to basically go to overtime, and they would have if it weren't for the referees being fucking corrupted as fuck.
And that's a fair point. But yeah, I mean, if I didn't know those details, and I just looked at the score, I would say, oh well, this is kind of the beginning of the season. If you asked me how this game would go, this is how I would have expected it to go.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the season. It's only everything that's happened since the beginning of the season, especially with the Commanders, that makes this actually kind of surprising.
Yeah.
And even possibly unfortunate. Like you had stated, you kind of feel bad for the Commanders after this because they kind of got screwed over.
Kinda. It was a blatant fucking on national television at this point. Because had it been one missed call, no, it was back-to-back in succession. Illegal formation, moved them back. Then they got pass interference in the end zone, not called on fourth down, which meant that they had to turn it over. Not to mention that there was, it probably was a fumble, but it was so fucking close that how do you overturn Henneke not fumbling the football there?
Yeah, wow.
I have questions about that too.
That is a good point, but yeah. Anyway, it's the Giants and the Commanders. Neither one is actually good enough to get much noise going, especially whether they were, even if they were playoff bound or even if they were in the playoffs, they'd be going out quickly because they just don't have it. They do not have it, and you can see it that they don't have it. Neither team has it.
Speaking of not having it, the Packers beat the Rams 24-12.
Yeah, and this right here, this Monday game here, was basically the last straw. If you were thinking the Rams were anything like their last year team, they are basically a complete burning wreck. They are the Hindenburg 10 minutes later. They are an absolute wreck of a team right now.
Which I think shows that the Baker Mayfield magic was fool's gold.
Yeah, possibly. I still think he's serviceable, but he may be journeyman quality. So
yeah, he is no franchise quarterback at this point.
No, yeah, he's definitely not superstar material with playing like this.
He's just keeping the ball warm for Stafford when he comes back next season.
Yeah. Well, his career is really hanging in the balance.
Or the Rams looking to the draft or free agency to see what they can find as a franchise quarterback.
So, which is so sad because basically at that point you're looking at probably 3, maybe 4 years before we hear much of anything out of the Rams again.
Yeah.
And that's sad because they came from high heights last year.
Yeah, they won the fucking Super Bowl.
This is a team that should not have collapsed into a pile of ruins. This is the team that should be coming off of a pretty good season not a pretty good season. That is the best you could possibly hope for last year. So it was amazing. And right now, they're a smoldering wreck of what they once were. So this was a disaster of a season for them.
I think I do dare say this on stream. With the Bengals still playing like the Bengals akin to last year, I feel that the wrong team won the Super Bowl. that it should have been the Bengals and not the Rams. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there's a lot of arguments. Other people would have said the Chiefs.
Hey, I'm going off of who played in the Super Bowl, so.
No, I know, but a lot of people would say, well, the Chiefs had a close one and ended up, not making it or whatever, based on a close one. So if they had been the Rams versus the Chiefs, things might be different.
But like I said earlier, I'm expecting the rematch in the AFC Championship this year between the Bengals and Chiefs again. And considering how much the Bengals have the Chiefs' number, I'm expecting the Bengals to go back to the Super Bowl again at that point, if that's the case. But then again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs finally figure out how to beat the Bengals for once. But on that note, any final thoughts from the matchups this week before we look at the full schedule for Week 16 here?
No, I pretty much said everything that needs to be said about Week 15. So.
Let's see if anyone's in the chat saying anything right now. Nope. All right. So, tomorrow night we got, it's Tuesday still. Thursday night.
Yeah, it's Tuesday.
I keep forgetting that we're not doing this on Wednesday anymore. On Thursday night, we got the Jaguars going to New Jersey to play the Jets, like we said in last week's stream. I got the Jaguars winning this one, especially after this past week.
Yeah. I kind of hope the Jets defense shows up, but the Jaguars offense is amazing. So
yeah. Considering that in true football, I don't have to do anything this week, so it doesn't matter if I start Lawrence or not this week, or Geno for that matter, or anyone for that matter.
Yeah, so the Jets basically have the choice of your defense better show up, otherwise this is going to be an ugly loss for the Jets.
Yeah.
So I expect the Jags to win.
Yeah. And the first Saturday game on Christmas Eve, the Falcons go to Baltimore to, I assume, beat the Ravens at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if the Ravens don't have Lamar again, then I don't see how they win. They just don't have anything without him.
Yeah. And
he's obviously the cornerstone of the Ravens team.
Yeah. And after that, the Lions go to Carolina to, I think, beat the Panthers.
Yeah, this is another one where if the Panthers defense actually shows up, they might be able to pull it off. But the Lions offense has been just kicking teams' asses left and right. So
yeah, so
I have to imagine the Lions will win this one.
Yeah.
Also,
After that, the Bills go to Chicago to play the Bears, or to beat the Bears and back into their hibernation.
Yeah, if the Bills we saw last week show up again in this game, the Bears are going to get their asses kicked.
Mm-hmm.
So,
the Saints go to Cleveland to play Deshaun Watson and the Browns.
Yep. And that game is another one where if the Saints of last week show up, the Browns are in trouble. But if not, then the Browns could actually win this one.
I think I'm going to go with the Browns on this one.
Yeah, I think I will too.
Because there has to come a point where Deshaun Watson starts playing by Deshaun Watson. Or
yeah, you'd think.
Or like him, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Like the old Deshaun Watson has to show up sometime.
Yeah, eventually. After that, the Seahawks go to Kansas City to, I think, get beat by the Chiefs.
Yep, this one could be a shootout because you have two excellent offenses that have proven, although with one small caveat, the Seahawks have lost Lockett for this game. against the Chiefs. So they won't have Lockett. They're only going to have Metcalf and a couple of others.
Yeah.
So the Seahawks are at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
So I would have to go with the Chiefs, but I do expect this game to be a shootout.
Yeah. But you're saying you're going with the Seahawks here?
No, I'm going with the Chiefs,
Oh, okay.
but I do expect this game to be a shootout nonetheless.
Okay.
Because and if it weren't that, I would say the Seahawks would have the advantage if they had still had Lockett. But they're losing Lockett this game because he's injured. So
yeah,
the Chiefs have the advantage. I would go with the Chiefs. So yeah.
On that note, the Giants come here to Minnesota to play the Vikings.
Yep.
Obviously, I got my current home team, the Vikings, in this one.
Yeah, hopefully the Vikings have figured out what to do and what not to do after last week.
Yeah.
And boy, if the Vikings can't beat the Giants, then they're in real trouble in the playoffs.
Yeah. But
I would expect the Vikings.
But like I keep saying every week, I pick the Vikings, but it wouldn't surprise me to see the Vikings get beat by any team that they play at this point.
Yeah, they're really hard to trust.
Yeah. Just like most of my life.
Most of us will never forget the 40-3 loss to the Cowboys. So
yeah,
that's bad, real bad.
And after that, the Bengals go to Foxborough to go meow. So I got the Bengals over the Patriots.
Sure, it seems like the Bengals can't really be stopped by anybody. So yeah, it's Bengals offense is on fire, and I don't expect the Patriots to be able to handle it.
After that, the Texans go to Nashville to lose to the Titans.
Yeah, it would kind of be the last straw for the Texans, wouldn't it? If they can't beat the Titans, I have to go with the Texans on this one. And the reason I have to go with the Texans is because they've shown that they can do some offense. The defense is non-existent, but their offense has some spark. So if they can just get their offense to do their job, they can win this game. And for the first time this year, I think this must be the first time this year, I am actually going to go with the Texans.
Well, they have won one game previously. Because they are 112-1.
Yeah.
Because they obviously did tie the Colts early in the season.
But I don't think in any other week of this year I've ever picked the Texans to win. They've been the L guess every week for me.
And then after that, the first late afternoon Christmas Eve games, the Commanders go to Santa Clara to get fucked over by the refs and the 49ers. No NFL, I'm not going to let it go. Because I had to watch your fucking shenanigans with the referees in that game against the Giants.
Given what the Niners have done against other teams that are much better than the Commanders, I really don't expect them to lose to them. I just don't see how they lose to them. So, yeah, Niners are my choice on that one for sure.
Yeah. I obviously got the Niners because if for no other reason, the Niners are a better team, but if it is close, I expect the referees to be like NFL officials and go, flag, pass interference. The guy wasn't even 20 yards near him. Anyway. Speaking of games that ought to be high scoring, Eagles go to Dallas to play the Cowboys.
Yeah, this game right here, I expect to be game of the week.
This could be it's not a true trap game because it's not like a shitty team going up against like the number one team. It's two teams that have offenses that have history of playing really good against good teams. So you could go either way with it.
This is going to basically tell you for sure now. This game will for sure tell you which one is a real deal, contender between these two teams. who's able to handle whom here, because the Cowboys have been both manhandling and shockingly losing, and so have the Eagles over and over and over. Now the Eagles have been riding high big time this year,
but the Eagles have only lost once to Washington somehow.
But the Cowboys have found out how to play on offense this year also.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the Cowboys because the Eagles are due to get another loss here.
If this ended up at like 43-37, I would be like, oh yeah, that wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Yeah.
But in terms of who's going to win, that's the hard question. This is probably the hardest pick of the entire week, but I'd probably go with the Eagles because they've been winning repeatedly right now. Yeah. But man, this game's going to be the game of the week. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So to recap, you got the Eagles and I got the Cowboys then, right?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay. And finally, the Christmas Eve night game, which will be airing on the Alpha Network, so I won't be able to watch it. The Raiders go to the Steel City to play the Steelers. This ought to be interesting for all the wrong reasons.
Yep, it's really a matter of which Raiders show up. The Raiders that can't beat anyone, or the Raiders that will put up 40. And if it's the Raiders that put up 40, then they'll win. And that is who I'm picking, because I don't see why they should lose to the Steelers. The Steelers have good offense, but they have nothing else.
Yeah.
But their offense shows up every now and then. Like, they've had 4 or 5 games this year where the Steelers have actually showed up on offense. But the Raiders, the Raiders are kind of either on or off. And if this is an on game, they'll win. And so I got to pick the Raiders.
Yeah. So on that note, the first of the 3 Sunday games, the Packers go to Miami to play the Dolphins. I think I'm going to go with the upset and pick the Packers here.
Yeah, well, I'll pick the Dolphins because I do think that with Tua around and the way their offense has been playing, they can definitely do it against the Packers. So I'll go with the Dolphins. They've shown a lot of offense this year. And all it takes is a tiny bit to beat the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't take a lot.
But if the Packers that we just saw showed up this past week to play the Dolphins, then it could be a close game.
Yeah, I just think the Dolphins have the advantage, both from home field advantage and from having a really high-powered offense.
Yeah. And on that note, at 3:30 in the afternoon on Christmas Day, we have our Tank Bowl matchup for the week. Broncos go to LA to play the lonely fucking Rams.
Yeah, the usually hapless Broncos versus the completely hapless Rams.
So, if Russell Wilson is cleared to play, I got the Broncos. If he's not, I think I might still have the Broncos. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd go with the Broncos either way also, just because I know the Rams are a smoldering wreck.
Yeah.
So. And
then the Christmas night game, the Buccaneers go to Phoenix to play your hometown Cardinals, bro.
Yeah, this is probably the one team that Tom Brady can make himself feel better about defeating. It's gonna be a sad day if Tom can't beat the Cardinals, because the Cardinals have fallen into the doldrums.
If Tom can't outplay Colt McCoy of all fucking people, there's a problem. And considering the number that Colt McCoy is wearing, it's the battle of number 12s on Christmas night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's for me, it's Buccaneers here, and if it's not, then Tom Brady really should retire.
I agree. And finally, on Monday night on ESPN on December 26th, the Chargers go to Indianapolis to, I think, beat the Colts. But who the fuck knows at this point?
Yeah.
It would.
I don't know. The Colts surprised me this past week. I don't know what the hell.
It would not surprise me that the Colts smoked the Chargers in the first half. Then, much like with the Vikings, considering one video that I watched before I lay down earlier, this conspiracy theory about they fired Hackett and brought in Saturday to tank the team so they can get a higher draft pick. That's entirely possible.
Yeah, well, I prefer to think of it the other way. I tend to think Jeff Saturday is a better head coach than the guy that started. I had no interest in the Colts team before Jeff took over.
Think about this connection, though. The guy that they just let go as the head coach of the Colts was the quarterback for the was it the Washington Redskins? No, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. The Buffalo Bills, when they made their tremendous comeback in the playoffs. Then the Colts fired him, brought in Saturday. Matt Ryan, who also lost on the bad side of a major comeback in the Super Bowl to Tom Brady, was the quarterback of the Colts as well when they lost the historic comeback to the Vikings. Do you see a connection here yet?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In other words, I feel like the Colts are cursed now with the curse of the Hackett at this point.
Yeah, well, possibly.
So if that's the case, I'm going with the Chargers because if the Colts are cursed now, we'll see. And if that's the case, the Chargers should obviously win big or just win in general on Monday night.
Yeah, it's a really golden opportunity for the Chargers to get a W. But with the Colts being, I guess, capable of putting up 30, I didn't expect them to ever be doing that this year. The Chargers may have their hands full. I'm still going to go with the Chargers because I've seen more reliability from them than the Colts, but I think this could go either way. But yeah, like I said, I'm picking the Chargers, but not with full confidence because the Colts are kind of all over the place.
And no teams are on bye week this upcoming week either.
Yep. Full slate.
Are there any teams on bye week for the following one? No. Okay. So I guess the bye weeks are done then?
Yep, they are done.
Okay, good. Finally. So peeking ahead to week 17, any matchups that leap out to me. Well, the Cowboys are going to be playing the Titans on Thursday night on December 29th.
Sure, yeah, we would expect the Cowboys to win that game. If they didn't, it'd be shocking.
The Jaguars go to Houston to destroy the Texans on January 1st.
Just a beat down.
The hapless Broncos will be in Kansas City. We'll see who the NFL and the referees hate more in this matchup. The Browns go to Washington to play the Commanders, so we'll see if they hate the Commanders more or hate Deshaun Watson more.
Yeah, I guess.
At that point. The referees are going to have to make a choice there of who to fuck over in that one. Oh, and the Vikings go to Lambeau Field. So that ought to be interesting because the Vikings and Packers haven't seen each other, I think, since like week 1 or something. So it's been a while. And I think the Vikings beat the Packers. Right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, and those are the matchups that leap out to me the most, other than a potential AFC Championship matchup on Monday night on January 2nd when the Bills go to Cincinnati to play the Bengals.
Yep.
So Monday night ought to be interesting on January 2nd. A potential preview for the playoffs at that point.
Yep.
But as it is, any other final thoughts as we close this out here?
No, nothing much for this week because I have no games.
Yeah, so, in true football, I don't have any, and no bench. I have my shit going on there to try to stay in the championship brackets, i.e., to try to get to the finals here.
Yep.
So as it is, like I said, going into our matchup and no bench, if I can't beat you, then nobody should, and I did beat you. So I guess I cleared your bench.
Yeah. Well, my team was dragging ass toward the end of the year. You had put up basically 120 points between your running back and your wide receivers, so that was way too much for my team to handle.
Yeah, and I didn't even need Geno Smith to do anything, even though the whole time I was that's true football. Never mind. Tom Brady, I was getting pissed at for obvious reasons. Right up until like the fourth quarter, I was going, just throw the fucking goddamn ball. You're fucking losing your ass right now.
Yeah.
But no, the Bucs just kept handing it off. I'm like, fuck you two. Which is why each and every week I'm like the head coach of the Packers when Brett Favre was in his early years with the Packers, going, Can you get the quarterback out of there? And then like 3 seconds later, wait a minute. Because that's where I'm at with Tom Brady at this point. Get him out of there. Get somebody else in. And then like after thinking about it for a day, I'm like, wait, hang on. Because I'm at the moment where the only option is Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
In that league. So
not the greatest option.
Yeah, but not the worst either.
Yeah, you could do worse, but you could also do better.
Yeah, because going into this next round of the playoffs for no bench, I'm like, I don't know what the hell Cousins is going to do against his matchup this week. But then again, I could say the same thing about Tom fucking Brady too. So I don't know what the hell to do with Tom Brady at this point.
Well, in fantasy, I'd rather have Tom over Cousins. So that's just me.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking too at the moment. But after I get up later, I'll probably be thinking the opposite way again, for all I know. But as it is. Yeah, otherwise that's all I got.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about this week.
The Christmas games ought to be interesting. And most of them are on Christmas Eve, so actually this Saturday is actually Sunday, and this coming Sunday is actually going to feel like Saturday at that point when it comes to football.
Yeah.
But as it is. All I know is that I'm off on Saturday, so.
Yep.
But on that note, what are you going to be up to after this?
Well, I'm going to eat dinner. My usual.
I'm going to watch or play something till I fall back asleep again.
Yep.
Over on my other TV on the Series S, because I moved a bunch of shit around and I got the PS4 and the Series X back in my office again.
Cool.
Yeah. So things are going to look the way they used to before I moved shit previously, which means I'm going to be closer to the camera for you guys. Hence why the camera on the laptop is in a strange place, which is why you can see my Christmas tree behind me. And also why you can see more of we the people here. In other words, those watching can see themselves. Haha.
Yeah.
But on that note, for content coming up, on Friday, I'm going to be checking out Tom McDowell's new music video that he's dropping on Friday, right here on this channel. So stay tuned for Drew Reacts for that. And by the way, on that note, for future reactions, you're not going to see the video based on where the camera's placed now, between two screens here. But you will hear it. So that way, if you want to watch the video that I'm checking out, go to that person's channel and watch it for yourself. Because you're just going to be coming here for my reaction to it, not to watch it yourself. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that way I get the view for you watching my reaction, and the artist or whoever will get the view for you going to watch the video to check their video out for yourself at that point. So everybody wins.
Yep.
At that point, which is the general idea. And shout out to Joshi for, well, agreeing with this idea of this making sense. So, because I asked for his opinion last night before I started moving shit, and he's like, "Yeah, that actually is a good idea."
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So, on that note, stay tuned for that on Friday, tomorrow or tonight, whichever. Stay tuned for a couple of game streams from me, be it on YouTube or Twitch, respectively. Because I got to get back to playing God of War, Ragnarok. I got other stuff I got to continue playing, like High on Life and among other things. So, yeah, so I got a bunch of stuff I got to get back to playing. So just pay attention to YouTube and Twitch for the gaming side of things, and just pay attention to notifications, or just hopefully be on those sites when I go live so you'll know that or just follow me on Twitter, because I tweet the shit out too. So that's all I have. Do you have any content, or are you just going to stick to, I don't know when I'm going to do anything?
That's the way I always am. So I never know when something might strike.
Yeah, because you haven't done anything in months again.
Yeah, that's just the way my channel is. You know.
What the hell was your last video? I don't even remember. Was it the Nancy Pelosi thing?
Yeah, it's mostly Taiwan trip video.
Yeah. So if you guys aren't following Desert Nord for his political memes, go subscribe to Desert Nord on YouTube, and go follow him on Twitter as well. But on that note, we'll see you guys in the next one. I've rattled long enough for like 8 minutes about nothing here.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys in the next one. Fuck Tom Brady. Raylos are weird. That's the wrong podcast. Fuck Tom Brady, and fuck the corrupt officials, and fuck Roger Goodell. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, that's all good.
We'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good night, guys.
Yep. See you guys.